Ethan stood on the porch of his own house in a quiet Northern Virginia suburb, the humid evening air sticking to his skin after a 2-week business trip. He usually came home buzzing with anticipation, mentally counting down the minutes on the flight from LAX. Then in the Uber from Dulles, picturing the moment he'd kick off his dress shoes in the foyer, pull Claire into a hug, and feel the familiar comfort of their life together settle over him. But tonight, something felt off. The whole scene looked slightly alien, and for the life of him, Ethan could not pinpoint why. He set his roller bag down by the front door and let out a heavy sigh, trying to push down the tension coiling in his stomach. A light was on in the hall. Claire must be waiting up. He quickly shrugged off his suit jacket, careful not to clutter the entryway. "Honey, I am home," he called out, his voice sounding louder than he intended in the quiet house. Usually, Claire would come running, her smile lighting up the space. This time, she emerged from the kitchen almost immediately, but her movements were restrained, her eyes tight with a tension that mirrored his own. She tried to muster the same warm smile, but it did not quite reach her eyes. "Hey," she said, closing the distance and wrapping her arms around his neck. "How was the trip?" Ethan gave her a quick kiss on the forehead. "A grind," he admitted. "Back-to-back meetings and the deal almost went sideways. Just glad to be back." Claire nodded, her gaze drifting away as she offered him some water or a glass of wine. He asked for water. A little alarm bell went off in his head. He needed to pay attention. Normally, she'd pepper him with questions about the small things. How the flight was, if he ran into anyone he knew, what overpriced food he ate at the airport. Now, it felt like she was trying to fast forward through the conversation. As Claire went to get the glass, Ethan walked into the living room. The throw pillows on the couch were scattered in a way he'd never seen before, and the cashmere blanket that was usually folded neatly over the armrest was crumpled on the back of the sofa, as if someone had just used it. Maybe she fell asleep watching TV out here, he thought, trying to rationalize the feeling away. Then he saw them. A pair of men's sneakers by the door that were not his. He frowned. Did they have company? It could have been one of Claire's friends, or maybe her sister who sometimes drove down from Maryland for the weekend. But why would she hide that from him? How was the drive from the airport? Her voice floated from the kitchen. Not bad. Traffic on 66 was light for once. Did your sister say she was coming by? He asked, glancing back at the shoes in the entryway. Claire came out with a tall glass of water and handed it to him, biting her lip. My sister? No, she did not. She followed his gaze to the sneakers. Oh, that was Laura, you remember her? From the interior design project. I told her she had to get a pair of on clouds, and she brought them over to show me. I just have not put them away yet. The explanation felt a little too rehearsed, but Ethan let it go. He knew Claire was passionate about her freelance design work and sometimes had colleagues over. Still, it was weird for a friend's shoes to be left behind. He was too exhausted to press the issue. All he wanted was a hot shower and a moment of peace. Later, as they sat down for the dinner she'd prepared, Ethan noticed another detail. A carton of Simply orange juice on the table next to the steak she'd grilled for him. He raised an eyebrow. He hated orange juice and Claire knew it. You on an orange juice kick now? He asked, keeping his tone light. No, I guess I just grabbed it out of habit at Whole Foods, she said with a shrug, quickly changing the subject to a difficult client she was dealing with. Ethan could hear the faint tremor of nervousness in her voice. She had never been this evasive with him before. Usually, she could spend an hour describing the tiniest details of her day. Now, she seemed desperate to shut down any line of questioning. He had the distinct feeling she did not want him digging any deeper. After dinner, they moved to the living room. The TV was on, but the volume was muted. Claire grabbed the remote and started flipping through channels while Ethan unbuttoned his collar, his mind already on a hot shower. He happened to glance at the screen as she navigated the Netflix menu and saw a profile named Guest. They only had 2 profiles, Ethan and Claire. He'd never seen a guest account before. Did you make a new profile? Oh yeah, she said, flustered. I do not even remember why. I think I wanted to see what recommendations would pop up without our viewing history messing with the algorithm. Or maybe I hit the button by accident. Whatever. Her voice lacked conviction. He could not explain why these little things, the juice, the sneakers, the Netflix profile, were getting under his skin. But a knot of anxiety was tightening in his gut, telling him, something is wrong here. Around midnight, he stretched wearily. I am gonna go shower. I've got to be in the office tomorrow, need to get some sleep. Sorry I'm not much company. I'm just wiped. Of course, go ahead. Claire nodded, and he could have sworn he heard a hint of relief in her voice, as if she'd been waiting for him to leave. In the master bathroom, Ethan turned on the shower and then noticed the new towels. Bright white, from Pottery Barn. He knew for a fact their old ones were charcoal gray. Why the sudden change? Sure, it could have been a designer's whim, but it was another piece that fit perfectly into the growing puzzle of strangeness. The hot water felt good, washing away the physical exhaustion of his trip, but it did nothing for the unease churning inside him. Maybe I am just being paranoid, he thought, replaying the evening's oddities. But he always considered himself a pragmatic guy, not the jealous type. He never suspected Claire of anything. Their marriage was solid, even if it had its rough patches. And yet, something was fundamentally out of alignment. He got into bed late. Claire seemed to be asleep, but she flinched when he lay down. Maybe she was faking it. He did not touch her. He did not have the energy for a late-night interrogation. But he woke up suddenly in the dead of night. A strange sound had pulled him from his sleep. A soft click, followed by quiet footsteps. He strained his ears. Someone was walking through the living room. Was it Claire? He turned his head. No, she was right there beside him in bed. Weird. His heart stuttered. Maybe it was just the house settling, a floorboard creaking. Pulling on a t-shirt, he crept into the hallway and saw a dim light from a table lamp glowing in the living room. The curtains were drawn back, and he could see faint impressions on the thick pile of the rug, like someone had been walking around in socks. But there was no one there. The house was dead silent. He checked the front door. The deadbolt was locked. He took a breath and caught it. The distinct scent of a men's cologne that was not his. It was a faint, spicy smell, like the ghost of someone else's presence. His heart started hammering against his ribs. He switched the lamp to its brightest setting and scanned the room, but nothing was stolen or out of place. Back in the bedroom, he knew he would not be able to sleep. His mind raced with the possibility that someone had been in their house. Claire had not moved. He wanted to shake her awake, but he stopped himself, realizing she could just deny everything. He had no proof. The next morning, over a tense breakfast, he could not help himself. Claire, I woke up last night. The light was on in the living room. Did you get up? No, I did not hear a thing, she answered evenly, sipping her coffee. I smelled something, he started, but trailed off. A smell? Ethan, you were probably dreaming, she said with a dismissive shrug. I was so out of it last night. I do not even remember falling asleep. He felt torn. Maybe he was imagining things. But why did it all fit together so perfectly? The sneakers, the orange juice, the new towels, the guest profile, the sound in the night. It was too much to be a coincidence. Before he left for his office in Tyson's, he decided to take one concrete step. He found the small Wise security camera he sometimes used to record technical walkthroughs when he worked from home and discreetly placed it on a bookshelf in the hall, aimed at the front door and a section of the living room. Maybe he was losing his mind, but he needed proof that nothing was wrong. Or, conversely, proof that something was very, very wrong with his house and with Claire. His heart felt heavy as he kissed her goodbye and pulled his Chevrolet out of the driveway. The day dragged on interminably. Ethan tried to focus on work, answering a mountain of emails and taking calls, but it was all background noise. The only thing he could think about was getting home and checking the camera's recording. Around noon, he had to physically restrain himself from dropping everything, driving home, and pulling up the footage on his laptop. But he held back. Claire would be home, and his sudden appearance in the middle of a workday would raise 1,000 red flags. He did not want to start a fight without a reason. But the longer he waited, the more the anxiety gnawed at him. He had another meeting late that afternoon, a Zoom call with the West Coast team. He stared blankly at the screen of his MacBook, offering canned responses when prompted. His colleagues, knowing he was just back from a long trip, were taking it easy on him, but the work was still piled high. At some point, he realized he could not think about project timelines or Q4 deliverables. His mind was consumed by the strange, unsettling situation at home. He did not believe in ghosts, which meant there had to be a rational explanation. But what could it be? When he finally pulled into the driveway, dusk was settling over the neighborhood. Claire did not meet him at the door. He stepped into the living room and glanced around. Everything looked the same as it had that morning, only dimmer in the fading light. He did not mention the gnawing feeling in his gut. He just said, calmly, "I've got to catch up on some work in the office. Do not wait for me for dinner." She seemed to let out a breath of relief and nodded. Ethan understood. She was perfectly fine with him avoiding questions. He went upstairs, pretending he was about to dive into a pile of paperwork. But the moment he closed the door to his home office, he pulled out his laptop and the micro SD card from the camera. He plugged it in and began to watch. First, nothing. Hours of an empty hallway. Claire left, came back with groceries from Trader Joe's, talked on the phone. The camera's mic was weak, but he could not make out anything suspicious. But as the afternoon faded into evening on the screen, the footage took a disturbing turn. 3:12 a.m., according to the timestamp. Ethan tensed. 3:12 a.m.? That must be from last night. He wanted to see this morning's footage, but then it hit him, the camera recorded on a loop. He was watching a clip from the night before he set it up. And in that clip, the back door opened from the inside. Someone already in the house had unlocked it. A tall man in a black North Face jacket stepped into the frame. Stepped in was not the right word. He moved with the casual confidence of a homeowner, as if he was just returning from grabbing something from his car. He was not sneaking or looking over his shoulder. He acted like he owned the place. A hot wave of anger washed over Ethan. The man took off his jacket and hung it on the hook by the door, the very same hook Ethan always used for his coat. His heart hammered against his ribs. As the stranger walked toward the kitchen, his face was momentarily illuminated by the glow of a street lamp outside. He looked to be in his mid-30s, solidly built, with a confident, almost arrogant gaze. He did not even bother to take off his shoes as he walked to the fridge, pulled out a bottle of Fiji water, took a few swallows, and then disappeared from the camera's view. Ethan fast-forwarded, looking for when the man left, but he seemed to have moved beyond the frame. Maybe he went upstairs, to the bedroom? The thought sent a chill down his spine. That son of a bitch was walking around my house while I was sleeping in my own bed? He wanted to scream, but he choked it down. Claire might hear him. Nothing else happened on the recording. About an hour later, the motion sensor light in the backyard flickered on, as if someone had used the back door again, but there was no clear shot of a face. The man was gone. One thought echoed in Ethan's mind. Who is he? How does he have a key? Or did Claire just let him in? Either way, this was not a burglary. This was an invasion of a different kind. Calm, entitled, and utterly brazen. Ethan slammed his laptop shut. The walls of his office seemed to close in, the air growing thick and heavy. He had never felt so humiliated, so completely betrayed. He refused to believe that Claire, the woman he loved and trusted, would bring another man into their home. But the evidence was staring him right in the face. Maybe there was another explanation, a brother, a cousin? No, she would never hide that. And no relative just shows up at 3 in the morning and acts like the king of the castle. He slammed his palm down on the desk, trying to release the fury building inside him. He had to do something. He decided against a direct confrontation. Claire would just deny it, and all he had was a grainy video. But Ethan knew one thing for sure. He would not be sleeping tonight. He would wait for the exact moment the stranger was supposed to appear. He put everything away and went downstairs. Claire was sitting in the living room and quickly turned off the TV when he approached. as if she was afraid he'd see something on the screen. He felt the same tension radiating from her. She was afraid of his questions, and he was terrified of her answers. "Everything okay?" she asked, forcing a smile. "Yeah, all good. Just tired," he replied. His heart was pounding, his palms sweating. He was sitting next to the person who had betrayed him in the most intimate way possible. But he had to see it for himself. The preparation did not take long. In the garage, tucked away in a storage closet, he found his old Louisville Slugger from his college baseball days. He brought it upstairs and hid it on his side of the bed, out of sight from the doorway. Claire went to bed early and made a show of falling asleep quickly. Ethan pretended to be working in his office, but he was just watching the clock, waiting. The nervous tension slowly sharpened into a state of high alert. He went back to the camera and adjusted its angle slightly to get a better view of the stairs and the hallway. Now, if the stranger or anyone else came in, he'd have a full picture. When the clock on his laptop read 3:12 a.m., exactly as it had on the recording, the air grew thick with anticipation. And right on cue at 3:14 a.m. he heard it, the soft click of the lock, the same sound he'd heard the night before. His heart went into overdrive, but his mind was ice cold with clarity. It was all about to come out. He grabbed the bat, the worn wood feeling solid in his grip, and moved silently into the hallway, his body thrumming with adrenaline. He was ready for anything. A fight, a scream, the soul-crushing shock of the truth. And there he was. Standing by the fridge in the dim light was the stranger from the video. The same powerful build, the same fluid movements, his jacket already unzipped. He had a calm, confident smile on his face. Ethan held his breath, tightening his grip on the bat. The man had not seen him yet. He was busy twisting the cap off a bottle of water. He took a long drink, closed the refrigerator door, turned, and finally saw Ethan. "Who the hell are you?" Ethan said, his voice a low, threatening growl. He could feel the rage simmering just below the surface. The man did not even flinch. A smirk played on his lips as he turned to face him fully. His eyes flickered down to the bat and then back up, showing no fear. "Me?" he asked, as if the question was absurd. "Who the hell are you?" "This is my house," Ethan bit out, his knuckles white around the bat. "It's our house now," the stranger countered smoothly. Just then, Claire came running into the hallway, her hair a mess, her eyes wide with terror. One look at her face told Ethan everything he needed to know. She was not surprised to see this man in her house. She was terrified that her husband and her guest had finally come face to face. "Ethan," she gasped, her voice trembling. I can explain." He did not even look at her. His gaze was locked on the stranger, who stood his ground with infuriating confidence. It was all sickeningly clear now. From Claire's panicked, rambling attempts to explain, he learned the man's name was Ryan. But Ethan was not listening to her words. He could not process her excuses. The reality of the situation had crashed down on him too hard, shattering years of trust. "Ryan," Ethan hissed the name. "Yeah, I am Ryan," the man said, his voice even. "And I am here, a lot." That arrogant smirk ignited Ethan's rage. "Get out or I'll—" Ethan started, but Ryan cut him off. "Or you'll what?" He glanced over at Claire. "You think she's gonna choose you? You re-gone for weeks at a time. I'm here." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. There was no doubt left. This was not just some sordid affair. Claire was living a complete double life. While he was away on business trips, she filled their home with Ryan's presence, and he had remained oblivious until the little details. The towels, the juice, the sneakers, the Netflix profile started to add up. "You the guest here, man," Ryan added, twisting the knife. "At least until your next trip." Maybe she wanted to keep playing this game, juggling two men. One for the stability, the mortgage, the respectable life, and the other for the thrill, the phantom who appeared in the dead of night. And the worst part was, Ryan acted like he belonged here. Ethan saw Claire's lips tremble, her eyes shining with unshed tears. She wanted to say something, but her mind was fogged by panic. The anger, the humiliation, the pain. It all swirled inside him into a toxic, explosive cocktail. Claire began, but Ethan's voice cut through her like a razor. Just shut up. She fell silent, a sob catching in her throat. He was still holding the bat, but he could not bring himself to swing it. His rage was a white-hot fire, but this felt different. Ryan was not a burglar. He was his wife's lover. Assaulting him with a bat was a line he could not cross. He let the bat drop, and it clattered onto the hardwood floor. Instead, he balled his right hand into a fist and, channeling all his pent-up rage and betrayal, swung. The sound of his knuckles connecting with Ryan's jaw was a dull, sickening thud. Ryan staggered back, slamming against the wall, his eyes wide with shock. He clearly had not expected Ethan to fight back. "You son of a bitch," Ethan snarled, and before Ryan could recover, he drove a second punch into his gut. Ryan folded, crashing over a dining chair and sending it to the floor. Claire screamed, a frantic, useless sound, trying to get between them, but Ethan shoved her arm away, his eyes locked on the man on the floor. Ryan, gasping for air, pushed himself up to one knee, wiping a smear of blood from his chin. He glared at Ethan with pure hatred, ready to retaliate, but Ethan was faster. "Get the hell out of my house," Ethan roared, grabbing Ryan by the collar of his jacket. He hauled him to his feet and dragged him toward the back door. Ryan struggled, but it was no use. Adrenaline surged through Ethan, giving him a strength he did not know he had, while Ryan was still reeling from the blows. Claire followed them, pleading, "Ethan, wait. Let's just talk about this." But her words were just noise against the roaring in his ears. He threw open the back door and shoved Ryan out onto the concrete patio. He stumbled and fell hard, cursing. For a second, Ethan was ready to go after him, but Ryan seemed to know he'd lost. He scrambled to his feet, coughing and clutching his side. "You ever come back here, I'll kill you," Ethan said, his voice dangerously low. "She'll just call me herself." Ryan shot back, taking a step away. "Get out," Ethan yelled, and slammed the door shut. Silence descended, broken only by the sound of his own ragged breathing. Claire was leaning against the wall, her eyes wide, tears streaming down her face. He'd never seen her look so broken, but then, she'd never seen him this furious. He took a few deep breaths, trying to steady himself. He glanced around the hallway. The overturned chair, the discarded bat, the shattered bottle of water on the floor. It looked like a scene from a nightmare. When Ethan finally turned to his wife, there was no warmth left in his eyes. He looked at her with an ice-cold detachment. Ethan, I am so sorry, I did not want." Claire started, reaching for him. He recoiled as if her touch would burn him. "Do not," he said, his voice calm now, but laced with a chilling contempt. "We redone." She staggered back as if he struck her. "It just happened. I do not know how it got this far. I loved you. I still love you. But you, gone so much, and I was so lonely." Her words dissolved into sobs, but Ethan's expression remained like stone. He felt nothing but a vast, hollow emptiness and a profound disgust. The betrayal was a fact, and her excuses were meaningless. "Go to bed," he said harshly. "And you better pray I do not do something I'll regret." Sobbing, Claire turned toward the stairs, but hesitated. "Ethan, He did not answer. With one last, shuddering breath, she trudged upstairs. He watched her go, but he did not see the woman he had loved. He saw a stranger who had lived a secret life right under his roof. Left alone, he stood motionless in the hallway for a long time. His gaze drifted from the door he'd thrown Ryan out of to the chair lying on its side. The bat peeked out from under the console table, a reminder of the violence that had erupted moments before. Slowly, his pulse returned to normal. He walked to the kitchen and sank onto a stool, a deep ache spreading through his body as the adrenaline faded. His knuckles throbbed. But beneath the pain, a new feeling was taking root, born from the ashes of his anger. Resolve. The point of no return had been passed. He could not live under the same roof as Claire for another day. She had destroyed his trust in the most insidious way imaginable. He did not sleep a wink. As the first hint of dawn appeared, he went out to the garage, found a few empty moving boxes, and began to fill them. He needed the physical action to keep from going insane. Ending it immediately and decisively was the only path forward. Claire stayed upstairs. A couple of times, she looked out from the bedroom and said his name, but he ignored her. He did not want apologies or reconciliations. It was over. By 9 a.m., he was on the phone with a realtor he met through a work project, telling him he wanted to put the house on the market. Immediately, the realtor was stunned. "Ethan, are you sure? We need to talk about pricing, staging, timelines." But Ethan just said he'd sell it at market value, or even below, whatever it took to get rid of the walls that were soaked in betrayal. His next call was to a divorce attorney a friend had recommended. He booked a consultation for the next day. There was no hesitation in his mind, only a cold, hard determination. The anxiety, the anger, the pain, it had all coalesced into a single knot that he needed to sever for good. The realtor arrived by lunch, walking through the house with a confused expression, clearly baffled by the sudden urgency. Ethan offered no explanation beyond personal circumstances. Claire sat in the living room, her eyes swollen from crying, saying nothing. She knew he was serious. He was aware that the divorce proceedings would be a financial and emotional nightmare, but the thought of staying in this house, of looking at her face every day, was unbearable. As he packed a suitcase in their bedroom, he opened the closet and froze. His dress shirts were crammed together on the shelf, many of them wrinkled. He remembered noticing how they were out of place when he first got home. It had been the first crack in the facade. Now it was a symbol of his shattered life. Another wave of anger washed over him, but he was too drained to yell or break anything. He just folded the shirts methodically, one by one, smoothing out the creases. His eyes kept landing on things that triggered memories of their 6 years together. Old photos, anniversary gifts. He blindly grabbed them and tossed them into a box, not caring what was valuable and what was junk. When he zipped the suitcase and walked back into the living room, Claire was standing there, her face pale. Her lips trembled, her eyes pleading for a pardon he could not give. "Ethan, please forgive me," she finally whispered. "I do not know how it happened. You were gone, and I felt so empty." He was just there. He just stared back at her. Not a single muscle in his face moved. She bit her lip, hoping for a flicker of sympathy, but his eyes were a cold, empty void. "I am not the fool you seem to think I am," he said quietly. Then he turned and walked out. On the porch, he noticed the shards of glass from the fallen water bottle were still scattered across the floor. Claire had not had the strength to clean them up. The memory of the night flashed through his mind. He pulled the front door closed and walked to his car. He threw the suitcase in the trunk, got behind the wheel, and buckled his seatbelt. For a moment, he glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the house where he spent 6 years of his marriage, a place that held 1,000 memories. Now it filled him with nothing but disgust. He started the engine and pulled away from the curb, forcing himself not to look back. As soon as he left the quiet suburban streets and merged onto the highway, he would be free, at least from the sight of the place where he'd been so thoroughly betrayed. He knew a messy legal battle was ahead, but at least he was leaving the poison behind. When the familiar skyline of his town disappeared behind him, he felt tears welling up, but he fought them back. He would not cry. He spent the last 24 hours in a battle, and he was done with emotion. For a while he just drove, staring at the road ahead, focusing on his breathing. A new path lay before him, one without Claire, without that house, without the gnawing doubt. He would find an apartment somewhere, furnish it his way, and create a space free from the ghosts of his past. Maybe, someday he'd learn to trust again, but that felt like a lifetime away. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, But he knew for certain that leaving it all behind was the only way to start over. The morning sun broke over the horizon, lighting up the road ahead. He turned on the radio, letting the music drown out his thoughts, and did not look back. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.